Above all other achievements at Confederation Centre stands the creation of Canada's most well-known stage heroine, Anne of Green Gables.
Hey, what are these, carrots?
You mean, hateful boy! How dare you!
Who is this strange girl?
Lucy Maud Montgomery's story of the little red-haired orphan growing up in Prince Edward Island was tailor-made for a summer festival here, and it's run continuously for 20 summers.
I think the opening night of Anne back in 1965 with 4 pieces in the orchestra pit and this wonderful show unfolding on stage was probably the highlight of my connection with Confederation Center. I'll never forget the reaction in the theater that night. It was immediate. People were up on their feet, cheering. Nathan Cohen, the Toronto Star critic at that time, went home and wrote a headline for his column, "Something Wonderful is Happening in Charlottetown," and the place took off from there as far as the theater's concerned. There's no question about that. We must give Anne her full credit. Without Anne of Green Gables, this may have been a totally different festival.
After I'd done Anne for a few years, I realized that it was an extremely well-constructed show and had an incredible appeal. And I thought, if this show is going to continue now, as a director, artistic director of the festival, retaining the show, the one thing that could never happen to Anne is that it would get stale or dull. It always had to have some kind of freshness, and that's really what I watch for constantly, that it is never what I call a tired show.
The festival's artistic director, Alan Lund, has been guiding Anne through the years.
Well, the particular challenge is that it's never been done before, and that's the exciting thing about it. And we have a very good cast. I don't think there's a weak member with us, and they're all working extremely hard. It's just rewarding to have people work so hard on something, and we can't tell whether it'll work as yet, but we're hoping it will. We're having a lot of fun doing it anyway.
Now, what's your name?
Would you please call me Cordelia?
Call you Cordelia. Is that your name?
Well, no. It's not exactly my name. Well, actually, it's Anne. Anne Shirley. But whenever I'm in dire anguish, I've always imagined that my name was Cordelia. At least, I always have of late years.
Fiddlesticks. If your name is Anne, then that's what you should be called.
Isn't that nice? It's just a little too big. Well, get rid of it. You know, it needs like, well, get rid of it, beat, beat, beat. Okay, I got a few other things, but I'd like to get on into the second act, if we could. Okay, it's, in general, you've done a marvelous job. I could have stayed in England, eh?
1,000 performances. That makes Canadian theatre history and puts Anne of Green Gables in the big leagues of musicals.
There's only once in a while you get a great musical like this, and I think this is it as far as Canadians are concerned. The music is hummable, the lyrics are clever and interesting, and the show has all the elements that make people come back year after year. We have 3 generations now coming back to Anne of Green Gables.
Even the men who took Anne from the pages of a book to the stage, Don Heron and Norman Campbell, feel the tug that Anne has on an audience's heartstrings.
Oh yes, I was immune to it tonight. I was really looking at it very objectively until the music started for Peter Muse singing of Anne of Green Gables, and I suddenly went, oh, I mean, and I wrote it. So there's something that goes beyond what you create. I mean, what Lucy Maud Montgomery gave to Don and me to work with, really, and what the actors do with it, what Alan Lund has done with it, it's just marvelous.
just this way. And of green gables, sweet and strange, stay as you are today.
With Anne as the established hit of the summer festival, it's been possible to mount a totally original Canadian musical every summer except for one. They've been full-scale musical comedies, or dramas, mounted in 3 weeks with a keen sense of what will work here in Charlottetown. The stories run the gamut: Newfoundland's Rowdy Man, The Legend of the Dumbbells, and a controversial musical based on Shakespeare's Hamlet.
I rose and cried, Gilda, sir, will sing you around, sing you around, sing you around.
There are others less memorable. Life Can Be Like Wow, about the hippie generation, or Windsor, a musical version of the royal abdication.
I enjoy the people I work with. I enjoy especially the people that I find that move on. You know, I've had 3 Gilberts that moved on into Chorus Line, New York Productions, etc. You know, so I feel that they got a start here. I found some super Anns. I found some dancers who've moved on into major ballet companies and things like that. As a matter of fact, one of them is going to come back to me this summer. I'm doing a production of West Side Story. And a boy I found for Anne of Green Gables when he was 14 years old. He became the principal dancer with Les Grands Ballets Canadiens. And now he's going to perform Bernardo for me in West Side Story. I mean, it's kind of like a complete circle.
As artistic director, Alan Lund has been able to bring the kind of style to the stage in Charlottetown that's kept it fresh and interesting every year.
It's got to go forward. You know, we got to find something new to do all the time, something that's new and exciting and rewarding, not only for me, but for the company and for the people who are going to see the festival. And along the way, we're going to find exactly the right biggie that's going to work. We did in Singing and Dancing. It was a tremendous success, and moved out to a super tour, and I'm hoping that it'll go on further.
The Charlottetown Festival isn't Lund's only credit. Some people remember the dance career he had with his wife Blanche. But the festival is where he's been able to use all his talents, according to writer Stephen Whitkin.
Well, from the beginning, I've always thought of him as the Florence Ziegfeld of Canada. He knows exactly what audiences want. He knows how to give them what they want. And he does that very, very well. And as far as that's concerned, that's how I've always thought of him. And in fact, he was a legend before I got to know him personally, because, you know, he's been around for a while, doing a lot of shows. And
he understands the needs of the musical. He knows that the audience has to have a specific kind of spectacle here and a kind of number here, and he understands the entertainment value in a show, and yet still goes for the heart. He knows that every show has to have a heart to it.
The first part should sound very like a circus gallop, and the second, when we go da 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 da, a show feeling. Ba 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 ba. It's still the same tempo, but it's the difference between. It's just a different color. That's all that I want there. Okay, from the same place, please, everybody.
His latest production, Ye Gods, has had mixed reviews and an average 60% attendance. It's not a clear hit. However, Lund is philosophical about the festival's record overall.
Because it's really a unique thing that's happened here. On a tiny island, you know, way on the East Coast, the only really original musical theater has been created. And I'm very proud of that. I think it's been a very worthwhile thing. I'm not talking about hits and misses. Everything has hits and misses. You know, nobody can be, you know, absolutely superb. But we've had a lot of hits, and we've done a lot of good things here. And so I feel for the country and for the Canadian artists, this has been a worthwhile thing to happen.
Over the years, Lund has found a full range of challenges to his theatrical skills, from singing and dancing to tableau to dramatic musicals.
In this newfound land, will people wear a smile, be happy all the while? What will I find in this newfound land? Sit down. It's all right. Sit down. Now, fish. Yes, but I want you to use your hand. Good. Now, let's start with the sign for sign. Let your fingers circle in the air. Weave them up and down and around and round. And that is the sign for sign. Yeah. The girls are a thing I'm fond of in any kind of weather. If I can win of one at a time instead of all together. His father said, be careful, son, and treat them like you are. Love all the girls you ever want, but see you don't get caught. Love all the girls you ever want, but see you don't get caught.
Clearly, the festival has pushed the limits of the stage musical, but there's been one overriding principle right from the start.
Yes, if other festivals, which shall be nameless, are festivals to which people think they ought to go, we want to make this the festival to which they want to go.
As the festival's first artistic director, Maver Moore was the man who set the future direction of the Charlottetown Festival.
100 years ago, when the fathers first met here, you know, I think that they spent only about 1/3 of their time in serious business and the other 2/3 having a good time. And so we thought that a festival in their honor, in this building, which is in their honor, had better be a festival of good times, too.
But it's been Alan Lund's festival for the past 2 decades, and he's the man who's been able to trigger a sort of shock of recognition in Canadian audiences as they see their own community reflected in front of them, a real breakthrough for Canadian theatre.
We've seen shows in New York and Montreal and Boston, and they're not a bit better, a lot of them. This is a real good show.
Well, I particularly enjoy the music, Jack. I find it very pleasant, very entertaining.
Whimsical, charming, and fresh.
Well, it is a fantastic surprise to me. First time in Prince Edward Island, and I think the whole show is exciting, very alive, has a lot of pep, has a lot of, I would say, indigenous material, and I think it's a smash hit.
2 decades later, they are still wowing them.
Well, we're from Watertown, New York, which is in upstate New York near the St. Lawrence River. And the impressions that we always have of Anne of Green Gables are terrific.
Have you seen the show before?
Well, we're figuring it out. I think it's been 5 or 6 times now. Every year we come, we see it.
We're from Toronto.
And what did you think of the production this afternoon?
Marvelous.
West Palm Beach, Florida.
And how does this theater compare with others you've seen?
I think this is excellent. The seating arrangement and the acoustics are very good.
And what about the production itself?
Spectacular. That's all I can say.
I've been from Australia and I've travelled 4 months, but I had a friend who was living on Prince Edward Island. She did mention it many times in conversation.
And what was your reaction now that you've seen it?
I really enjoyed it. It was great. It was tremendous.
There are some limiting factors at the centre. Some theatre critics have called Anne far too sentimental, and others have said there haven't been enough adventurous productions. That criticism isn't taken too seriously. As Maver Moore said, it started as a party, and it still is.
People don't want to come in from the beach and sit down to a heavy dramatic production. They're not as anxious to be educated in the middle of July as they are to be entertained.
I've heard that criticism from one person in particular. But I think if you look at, for example, what we've done over the years at Cameo Cabaret, a good example is this year. A young writer, a young composer, a new director, 4 young people who have not, I don't think, done a great deal of work. A brand new product, which is a major hit. It's sold out every night. Certainly we have, and when I must say that when we signed the contract for this particular play, we had no idea that it would be as successful as it is. So, you know, we were gambling, and certainly we were gambling on a lot of main stage productions here. I think the fact that Anne has been so successful as a family musical probably has generated that kind of criticism, but I think it's not. I think it's unfair.
Gambling on productions, gambling on people. That's the stuff that makes the centre such a worthwhile place.
You were marvelous today. Thanks very much.
Take the case of Nancy Hooper, an island girl who studied in the centre's art classes and along the way found a career.
There are people that work in the wardrobe who make suits, and then there are people who make beautiful gowns and lovely hairstyles and all kinds of things like that. But I sort of make the weird bits that go on, the other parts of the costume.
She's much too modest about her part in creating the magic of the theatre.
I enjoy jewelry. I enjoy making very proppy things like these fans, which we made for We Gods. And we made 12 of these, and it took my assistant and I, about a week to produce them. But they were fun and they were a challenge. And after I had finished them, I read in a costumer's handbook that you should never bother making fans. It was too hard. You had to just order them from someone who specialized in them. And I thought, well, I wish I'd known that.
Without the center, Nancy's chances of finding her career would have been pretty slim. And she says there are others, even the star of Anne of Green Gables, Gracie Finley, who are in the same situation.
I'm sure that there are many people, even if they've just perhaps worked very casually in the building, just the exposure and knowing that you can, like, people actually do it, that it's there. I'm sure that that's really important, as well as direct contribution to dancers and musicians and just numberless people.
We're developing young writers, directors, and singers, composers. And over 20 years, that's a lot of development. So I think we've made a major contribution to the arts in Canada.
If this was just a Prince Edward Island building, I doubt we would get anywhere near the amount of money that we get today, because a lot of corporations just say, well, go to your local community, and they should support it. But where we are developing the arts of Canadians, both in the performing and the visual arts, right across this country, they feel they have a obligation to support Confederation Center.
Productions like Les Feux Follets, that tell the stories of Canada, are the memorable ones. But because they are original, production costs demand a wider audience than the Centre can offer.
You tend to lose money on something that you cannot run more than 1 year. Our problem here is that we only have 1,106 seats and we have a 10-week season. So that if a musical costs you $200,000, and you only run it twice a week, because you're doing the other shows in repertory, then it's impossible on, say, 20 or 21 performances to get your money back. And we know that when we go into these things. That's why we like to, or hope we develop a property that can be run for 2 years and possibly taken on tour or developed into a television property.
This year's television project is the Canadian musical review, Singin' and Dancin' Tonight. Pre-sold to the CBC and is in the American pay TV marketplace. There are tours being planned and new shows under development, all part of the continuing job of creating an all-Canadian art centre.
Canada will never become a great nation on wheat alone, and PEI is going to get nowhere if she relies only on potatoes. We have to have wheat, we have to have potatoes, we have to have industry, we must do all those things. But the soul of a people, and the character of a people, and their happiness, and the way they relate to one another and to people elsewhere depends a great extent on culture.
20 years ago, some people thought a Canadian version of the Statue of Liberty would be the best memorial to the Fathers of Confederation. As we've seen, it's the more innovative idea, an arts and cultural centre, that has proved a much more fitting way to honor the work of the men who built Canada. Confederation Center is still a good mirror of their creative spirit, 2 decades later. I'm Jennifer Campbell.
Everyone has one wonderful something, some fabulous talent, an exceptional skill.
Everyone has one wonderful one thing, some magic of marvel, something to fulfill.
Aphrodite's a cook beyond praises.
All can sing